Hello everyone, this is Jasmina, and this video I'm going to talk about the practical side or with some practice charts of reading your natal chart specifically for your guardian spirit sector. Now, there are 72,000 different possible combinations when you look at the spirits, the stars, the doors, the stems, all of this. There's no way anybody is going to do all of these. So you have to understand how to combine the various different aspects when you look at someone's chart, including your own. And sometimes it's easier if you have a friend who's also doing this, you read their chart, they read your chart, and then, you get a better idea because then you have a little bit more objectivity. Now, this is where it gets tough. In the practical application of reading a natal achievement chart, you often need to combine contradictory aspects within a single sector. So maybe the star says something and the door says something else, completely opposite. And what does that mean? This is where it gets difficult. And you can also have contradictions between different sectors. Maybe one sector says you're conservative and another one says you're liberal. And so who wins? This is something that this is where let's say the art of reading these charts come in, because you have to get an overall feel for the entire chart. And that takes work. Now again, John Chung, who can be found on John Metaphysics on Facebook, has covered some of the spirit, star, and door combinations. So I'm not going to cover the ones he has covered. So you can look at somebody else's, or you can look at his things to get other combinations, and your combination might be there. So you may have things already. But there isn't enough feng shui practitioners. I'm sorry. Qi Men practitioners out there to cover all of these combinations. It's just not going to happen. Now, again, I'm focusing on the guardian spirit sector only in this particular video. Now, the reason I'm doing that is the guardian spirit sector is purported or believed to form your basic personality. Now, of course, life experiences can change this, and even your focus in life can change this. That is, how important this particular sector is. So, and this can change throughout your life. Your focus can change. When you're young, you're more likely to be really focused on your career and not so focused on your relationships, or at least you're not serious about the relationships. But that will change usually as time goes on. And the elemental mix in your batsa also affects how you read this. And also a fanyin or fuyin condition can change or reinforce the chart's attributes. So you have to look at all of these things. Now, a single attribute, either in your batsa or your Qi Men chart, does not always exhibit itself in your personality. So you have to investigate everything as a whole. And again, this is where it gets a little tough. Now, for example, I have the yin wood as my day master. And when you talk about yin wood all by itself, they're supposed to indicate a person who is good at being diplomatic, this kind of thing. However, in my batsa elements, my diplomat level, according to Joey Yap, is at 0%. And I would say that is a bit closer to reality. I don't like beating around the bush. I say it like I see it. And if I don't want to upset someone and I disagree with them, I just don't say anything. I just pretend I don't have an opinion. Now, if you want to look at more of this, some practical stuff, John Chung on Facebook is likely your best source. And also, if you want to get a real analysis, I think he is probably someone that can do it not too expensively. because he's relatively new at doing this. So he's not charging a lot yet, or at least he wasn't when he was making these videos. So here's an example of of the guardian sector of a person's chart. So I'm just going to first list the positive stuff, and then I'll list some of the negative stuff. But each one of these entities contributes something to this person's personality. In a healthy state, the snake, the yi, and the wu, they indicate someone who can learn quickly and learn well. The ambassador and the wu have different aspects than the restor. So the ambassador is, ambitious and resourceful, and they get the job done. But the wu is very similar. They're tough, persistent, but the restor is pretty relaxed and really doesn't care so much about that. But in general, the majority wins. So in this case, persistence would win. But this is one of those cases where it might not be true depending on the person's history. And actually also some other stuff in their chart. Now, the ambassador indicates conservative views and they dislike change. However, this also has Fan Yin in the doors. So Fan Yin person seeks and enjoys change. They also have challenges, but they enjoy change and they tend to be restless. In this case, you're not really sure who's going to win because these are quite diametrically opposed. Now, the Fan Yin, especially in the doors, because this is how you act, this oftentimes can overrule the ambassador because the Fan Yin is in every single sector, whereas the ambassador is in a single sector. So it's not necessarily always true, but let's say there's a bigger likelihood that the Fan Yin wins. Now, in an unhealthy state, the snake and the wu indicate indecisiveness, perfectionism that leads to becoming manipulative because you're trying to get something done and you can't make a decision, and so you just want to convince the other person of something. So this can be quite negative and can be very harmful for your career and for your friendships and everything. So this is really dangerous combination for someone who's in an unhealthy state. Now, the ambassador will then become rigid, argumentative, which is also bad for their career and their friendships. The restor, they can't get the job done. Again, bad for their career. And the same thing is true of the wu because it won't let you get things done. Now, the Fan Yin, in this case, since it's in the negative aspect, they would be doing the right thing at the wrong time or the wrong thing at the right time. They aren't going to get their timing right. And it has to do with what they are doing, not what they're thinking or whatever. It's what they are doing. Now, this person in actual life has a PhD in physics, and we'll tell you this takes more persistence than intelligence. Of course, the smarter you are, the easier it is to get your degree, but still, you still need more persistence than intelligence. They've lived in countries and climates very different from their childhood, so they like change. They've traveled to so many countries they've lost count. They do enjoy change and new experience, and they are liberal-minded. So this is not the ambassador is not winning in this case. This is actually me. So this is why I can say this. Now I am over 60. I know myself fairly well by now. If I were 20, well, I didn't have my PhD yet then, but I don't think I would be able to analyze this so precisely because I'm around long enough to know who I am. So here's the second one. And this was the chart I promised you to analyze in the theory part of this set of videos. And so the moon, they're deep thinkers, thirst for knowledge, secretive. So we've seen all this before. So in a healthy state, the moon, the dings, and the heart, so that's basically almost all the chart, indicates someone who can learn easily enough and they enjoy gaining new knowledge. So they tend to be quite knowledgeable people and they try to learn things basically their entire life. If you ever see someone with an open door in their guardian spirit sector, this indicates someone they take their job very seriously. It's very important to them and they have a very hard time retiring. They're the kind of people that may end up dying at a very old age while they're still working. I mean, they could have retired, but they just don't want to because they just can't sit around relaxing. It's just not them. They want to be on the job. And this is generally true of the open door in the guardian spirit sector. If it's in a different sector, it's not read this way. This is only if it's in the guardian spirit sector. This also has the Fu Yin, doors, stars, and stems. So they're very firm in their beliefs and they don't change their opinion very easily. But they're also a little bit secretive. We may not know what their true opinion is. So sometimes it may look like they're changing their opinion, but they're really not. Now, what their beliefs are often formed in childhood. So it depends on who their parents are and what the beliefs of the parents are that will form a good portion of this person's basic belief system. It can be a little different, but in general, it's the quality of the parents that make all the difference. In an unhealthy state, the moon and the heart tend to lead to being aloof and uncaring. They can be rebellious. They can be someone that you can't connect to because they just don't care. The open and the ding means they can be argumentative. They can be emotional. They can easily get angry. That makes them also very hard to deal with. And the Fu Yin, doors, stars, and stems, basically means they won't change even if it would help them. They have to come to some sort of breaking point before they would change. And it would be very painful for them. So once a person like this gets in the unhealthy state, it's kind of hard to get them out. They're ones that have to work very hard going back to the positive state. Now, this person does not wish to retire, and you'll see in a minute what I'm talking about. Although his politics have evolved, he has gotten more liberal as his life has gone on, but I do believe he already had these opinions, but he didn't express them in his politics. That moon will keep certain things secret until at least a good proportion of society was willing to accept the change, and then he backed it. But he probably believed this all along. And because he can be quite secretive, we don't always know where he's going politically. And this is a politician. It is the current president of the United States, Joe Biden. So, this was, I saw this and I said, wow, that's a pretty impressive guardian spirit sector. I said, wow, when I first looked at it. I said, I know now why he doesn't want to retire. He just doesn't want to retire. It wouldn't matter what he did in life, he wouldn't want to retire. So that's why he's still running for president in 2024. Now, I'd like to apologize for only having 2 examples, but really you should watch John Chong's stuff. He does a lot more. He doesn't really get the stems into it, but he actually deals with a lot more of those 3 other important things, the spirit, the star, and the door. And hopefully between the two of us, you'll be able to understand how to analyze yourself, or maybe you have a friend who will do the same thing with you. And that gives you a little more objectivity. So that may help. Thank you again for watching.